The challenge that I'm about to issue to you very well may be the hardest thing that you have ever done as a stacker, especially for silver, but also gold. I'll explain in this video as we explore. Difficult challenges are tough by definition, and of course that leads to what this is about. It's about a battle, and we're coming down to the Minutemen, the people on the front lines. That is you. That's right, because what I'm about to propose to you is something that is quite revolutionary, and I mean that in literally, because we are in the middle of what's known as the revolution for sound money, a phrase that I coined, pun intended, after we started seeing many states around the country here in the United States move to recognize gold and silver as legal tender. That starts with removing, at least in part, and some places in whole, taxation on precious metals. But there are still some states that do charge tax. And of course, whenever you buy, including online, you are not able to avoid that, because the bullion dealers will collect that tax for the states. Bullion dealers do not charge taxes. They collect it on behalf of the states. And that's based after a Supreme Court decision that happened a few years ago. We discussed it a lot on this channel because it greatly impacted many of us who were still paying taxes. So it makes it much harder to avoid. This video is about how you can avoid taxes on precious metals. And I'm putting that challenge out to you right now, inspired by a comment on my channel and also by Cybercurrent Twitcher, who made me aware of it as well, because taxes are immoral in many ways, but especially on money itself. Gold and silver are money. And so, especially in the United States here, when we have coins that were actually minted and stamped with a denomination on them, why should we pay tax on money? And you know, it's just especially money that has already been used as money in the past, like this $50, for example. You'd have to pay taxes on it. It's just insane. So it's, in my view, like property taxes every year, or something you pay taxes on personal property or real estate. To me, that's an immoral tax, because you own that. You don't really truly own it if you have to pay taxes on it every single year. And do you really truly own your bullion if you have to pay capital gains taxes on it, especially considering those gains are really not gains at all for the most part? They are just recouping the losses of the value of the dollar, which is inflated, which is another hidden tax. So we're taxed every which way but Sunday. So I'm issuing a challenge to you, and it's going to be very difficult, especially for those of you in lower income brackets, and especially for those of you who are buying mostly silver. This is going to be a very difficult challenge, and it's the hardest thing you'll ever do when stacking silver, and if you want to try to get some of the smaller gold pieces. Now, channel sponsor Summit Metals, I believe they are ones that do collect taxes for states that do charge taxes. However, there are ways to be able to avoid that in most cases, and I'm going to tell you how to do that. Number one is find out what your tax laws are in your state. And you can find out many of these things if you go to soundmoneydefense.org. They have the Sound Money Index. Try to remember to post a link to this in the description below. But look at what your state is and click on the state to see what the tax laws are. I think one of the most, there's only a handful of states that completely charge taxes all the way through. And I believe, I don't know if Minnesota is one of those, but they have some of the most draconian tax laws in the country. And so you just have to kind of check and see what those are. But the most egregious of those states are California, Minnesota, New Mexico, Kentucky, believe it or not, Vermont, and Maine. And they have the lowest sound money indexes scores, and I think that just basically means that they're charging taxes all the way through, and they're pretty high. Hawaii is another state. I've got a lot of viewers in California, And their cap they raised recently. I posted a video about this. They raised their cap to remove taxation to $2,000. So you have to spend $2,000 in the state of California before you can realize no taxes on your precious metal purchases. For a lot of people, that's almost impossible to be able to do that. It's just crazy. So I don't know how that's going to work out, but nonetheless, you have to try to save up money, and if you do that, well, you are got to save up for a long time in order to reach that threshold. Other states, some states they do not have a way to be able to avoid taxes in your state. Now, there's a difference between avoiding taxes and evading taxation. Evasion is illegal in most cases. Avoidance is not. So to avoid taxes, where you reach that threshold of $2,000 in California, I think it's $1,000 in New York, and you're free and clear. To save up is difficult in some cases, and if you live in a state where there's taxation no matter how much you spend, then see if you can think of a different way to be able to get your precious metals. You might have to think outside of the box. You may actually have to pay more. If you have a trusted friend who lives across the border in a state that has more friendly tax laws or no taxes at all, I would encourage you to either drive across the border or have your friend order them and have them shipped to their address in that other state, and then you drive and pick them up or have them ship them to you, which actually may mean that you may pay the same, probably more, to do that. But I think it's worth doing that in some cases just to send a message. Now, it may be a message that may be hard learned or maybe even not received at all for some of these states, but if more and more people do it and get the message out there, then and as well as if you write your delegate, then I think it will be a very powerful move. And it also helps bring the business to the other state and rewards them for doing that. It's a tough ask, especially if it's going to end up costing you more money. And you have to have resources or the ability to travel to another state to be able to make that happen. Open up a P.O. box, for instance, if you live within a driving distance of another state, to be able to pick up your precious metals and have them shipped there. So it's very difficult. It is a tough thing, and not everybody will be able to do it. But I do think if enough of us do take the time to be able to buy precious metals beyond that threshold and lobby our delegates and senators, I think it will send a powerful message. Same thing can be done in European countries and other countries around the world who charge VAT. That's value-added tax. And some of them are very draconian. We're talking 20% for silver in many cases. I mean, that's completely immoral. There are ways to avoid that there too, and the best thing to do is to find out your local and provincial and the laws of your nations, to find out what that is and what the exceptions are. Cyber Curtain Twitcher has done videos on those as well, especially if you live in the United Kingdom. You don't have to pay that, and you should not pay that VAT, especially with those exceptions. There's enough room there to make that happen. But here in the United States, there are a few states where there's no escape, and you yourself may find that it is impractical, totally impractical. But I would encourage you to look into it to see if it is feasible at all. And if you have no other option but to wait and save up $1,000, like in the case in New York, $2,000 in California may be a stretch to be able to do. Most of my viewers are in California, and I can understand if you just can't quite do it. But if you can, if there's any way at all to make that happen, go for it, because I think it is just abhorrent. And I hate that the state is getting money because you're obtaining sound money, especially with the stuff that California has done to really just rape the taxpayer there. It's an abomination what they're doing in California, but also across many of these other states and the United States too. We pay too much taxes. Capital gains tax is immoral as well in general, and especially it should not happen on precious metals. But also keep up. Stay tuned to this channel. I'm going to be doing more videos, and I'm hoping that especially in California that they will that there be some legislation that moves. I hope we can get some lobbyists in there. I hope the Sound Money Defense League will have more work and over there to kind of get things rolling in California. If it can happen in New Jersey, oh man, it should be able to happen in California, in other places. So we'll see what happens. But the moral of the story is, folks, is that taxes, especially on precious metals, are very much immoral and should not be happening. And taxation in many cases is theft. I won't go as far as say all taxes. I think there's some ways, and I think the idea of eliminating the income tax and having it just a pure consumption tax is a whole nother matter. Gold and silver should be exempt because they're constitutional money. The dollar, being unsound money, we are being taxed by inflation. And a lot of people don't realize that, but that is so important to understand that we're already taxed through inflation. And so any gain that's in gold and silver is not a gain at all, really. It's just the loss of value of this. And more people that get that and understand that our wealth is measured in ounces, not necessarily in fiat currency, then it really gives you a whole different perspective on precious metal taxation. So this is going to be a very tough thing, but I encourage you to look into it to see if it's practical. And even if it's a little bit impractical from time to time, I still think you should try it at least once to see if it'll to give this and maybe even write your delegate and tell them what you did. Hey, I spent more money to avoid taxes by going and buying them in another state because you have draconian tax laws, and you actually punish those of us who are not rich by buying precious metals to protect our wealth against what many like what you are doing in your states by taking federal dollars because you can't live within your means, which further punishes me as a taxpayer. And so I did this. So use it as an example, because they need to know. And they're really just going over the top with this deficit spending, and it's not just in nations. States are taking part in it too, because they get bailouts from the federal government, and provinces from the governments of other nations as well. So there you go. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. I hope you will take me up on this challenge. I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to each and every one of you for taking the time to watch, and encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.